Welcome to Inspiration Whispers. In a world where inspiration and purpose is so needed, we find it so you can use it and achieve what you want to achieve in the world. With me today, I have Dr. Linda Bender, who is a very inspiring person. Her work with animals and what she's done in the world and how she's moved it forward to work with people and animals and how we can help each other to live inspired lives is amazing. Linda, I've read your bio. You started at a very young age working with animals. They kind of found you, and then you went and got your doctorate in veterinary medicine. You traveled the world, working in zoos, helping save animals from poachers and rescue rehabilitation. And then you set up, in mental institutions, some of the first, mental health programs that adopt animals into the programs, as well as you wrote a book about animal wisdom and what we can gain from it. I just have to say first, Linda, wow. Wow.
Very kind. We're very kind.
And so can you tell us that first story where either an animal inspired you or you were inspired by them?
Absolutely. And people ask me this often, when did all this begin? And I thought about it and realized that it began, there was no time before. There was nothing I remember before I was engaged and in love and intertwined with animals. And the story I tell is, I was a skinny little shy thing, a strong wind could have blown me over. And I don't even think I spoke till I was 4 years old. It was pretty pathetic. But I loved being outside in nature with the animals and particularly the birds. And one night, I woke up about 3 a.m. and there was an animal screaming outside. And we all woke up. My parents got up. We went outside in the pitch dark, and there was this tiny, tiny little baby rabbit. And it was shivering and terrified through some near-death experience with a larger animal. So I scooped that little bunny up and I took it inside. And I held it to my chest and I said, I'm not leaving this kitchen floor. I'm not going to bed. I am going to sit with this bunny all night and help the bunny. And I, of course, fell asleep. But I remember holding the bunny. I was lying down on the floor and the bunny was right here. And the bunny, I intuitively knew that feeling my heartbeat would give comfort to the bunny. And it did. And what happened is it was my earliest recollection of what love is truly all about. I wasn't making it so much in the human world, but here it was almost an awakening experience to the overwhelming feeling of love. And that love, strangely, at the time, seemed to overwhelm not only me, but the bunny and open an awareness to what I knew nothing about at the time, but we now say so, casually, the great, interconnectedness of all life. I mean, it's almost, oh, they're saying that again, but truly it was an opening. And that bunny, yes, I rescued the bunny, but the bunny rescued me. And I felt so strongly that, wow, this made my life have a purpose.
Wow.
And I just never stopped. That connection with animals, rescuing animals, saving animals, being their advocate has been the great theme of my life. Yeah.
Wow. And so, we have these moments. If you were lucky enough to have a pet in the home, or these experiences, if you weren't afraid of animals in the wilderness, I think, I had a puppy who was born with some issues, and he wasn't supposed to live, and I stayed with him for a week, and basically it was said wow, he wasn't going to live. And after this week, he did. And he lived another 6 years, which is amazing. There is that really beautiful experience that we can gain from animals. So, what would you call that experience for you? That opening, that what do you have a name for it, or
Well, there's a sacred relationship between humans and animals. And what we are born into is that sacred relationship. Everything is alive. I was doing a talk with Deepak, who loves to talk about all this stuff, and he said, "Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line about what's alive or what isn't, or what has soul or what doesn't have soul?" And I said, "Look, there is no line. All life is soul. The root word for animal is anima, and that means soul. So what we open up to is the oneness of all life, and that there's no life form that is lesser or greater, worth more, worth less. And so that awakening, as mystics speak of, is just a higher level of awareness. And you can put any label, you want to with it. And as we go along, I'd like to give you some of my experiences of how that played out over the years. Because when I was very young, I thought, well, everyone understands, everyone intuits, everyone is experiencing what I experienced. What I realized is
no?
that's not true. So, what do you do with that? What do you do when you realize that maybe you're the odd one out? And what do you do with what inspires you? What do you do? Because often what inspires us is what can hurt us too, right? And so
Mm.
often people like myself kind of become fearful and shut down. And then we're really miserable because we're not doing what we want to do and what we're born into this life to do. So for me, it's not all glow, glow. There is an evolution of finding our courage and our strength in order to blossom into the birthing of that. I can think of nothing more beautiful than when we are able to express our gifts and our talents and what inspires us in the world. And it's not about the outcome. It's about us being able to be who we truly are. And so it's been
Mm.
an evolution for me.
Would you that these experiences, you'd say that's your calling? Is it,
I
it
w-
just
what is the calling? I think so. And, often, because I've worked over the years with a lot of people who are sensitive, highly sensitive people, were animal lovers. And I've been actually shocked over the years at how hurt and wounded and burned out and just depressed animal people are because of what's going on in the world. Um,
mm,
and I can't
mm,
cope. I can't deal with it. I can't stand the pain. I want to help. I don't know how to help. It hurts too much. So all these things, um, for those of us who are inspired by helping animals, it's not an easy road. But what it means is that we go inward. We go inward and we gather our strength from within. I, you know, couldn't imagine living without a spiritual life. And
so
animals taught me that. Animals
yes,
opened me to the spiritual experiences.
you know you mentioned in some of the other talks I've seen on researching you, you mentioned about animals' sense of humor. Is that particularly the way that even us, the people that maybe are more sensitive and
Oh yeah.
feel like, oh my gosh, especially with pandemic, we're so isolated and feeling so hurt right now. How can we? Is there any advice on how we can use the animals or help to get out of this, to change these
Yeah.
feelings?
Well, I used to say when I would talk, if we're talking about animals, if it's not funny, if it's not sweet, if it's not loving, it's not animal.
Yeah.
But if you've noticed during COVID, everybody suddenly wanted to have an animal around. The shelters emptied. Dogs, cats, you name it. We just know in our hearts that we can bond and we can be healed by animals. That's a two-way street. Who's rescuing
Mm.
is the cliche, right? But animals bring us back to who we truly are. Because the other thing I often say is we are the only species in this world to have thought we could secede from the natural world. We're the only ones, to our peril, to our peril.
I would agree
And
so
so, like
much with that.
COVID, you see, what am I yearning for? What am I longing? Let's get back to the basics. Let's think about things that we've been distracted from, right? When we look out the window on a busy day, we're not noticing the beauty of the sky, the sound of the bird, right? We're too busy in our monkey mind. I've got to get that paper out. I've got to do this. I've got to get here. I've got to get to da, 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 da. Well, suddenly we're at home. We can open the window and there's time to listen to the bird. There's time to pay attention to your dog who's desperately trying to get your attention. you know um
I
and they bring us into that present moment awareness. And remember, the present moment is the only time anything ever happens.
Right. The rest is imaginary. It's forward is imagination, behind is imagination. It already
Right,
happened. It's an image in our head, imagination.
right,
Um,
right.
I and you know, we have so much to learn from animals, that presence
Yeah,
and the love you speak
yeah,
about, the unconditional love. And also you talked about the courage. I think inspiration comes with courage. To be inspired, we have to be courageous enough to say, I have something I believe in. I'm going to go out and do it, even if it scares me.
and
Um,
even if everyone else tells you you're stupid, you'll never make it work, you'll never do this, you'll never do that, and maybe you won't, but if you listen to yourself, you'll do something even better. And that brings to mind um, that we often, and particularly advocates, activists, we get in our mind, this is what we have to do, you know, and we shut out everything that isn't in this tunnel vision because we
mhm.
think this is the way it has to be. This is what I'm going to do. And we shut off everything else. And we go on this tirade of what we think we need to do to change the world. And it often crashes in. And what I have learned the hard way is that sometimes you need to put your passions inward. You need to focus on them and you need to say, universe, show me the way. And then things come into your orbit that you never dreamed of. And when one road has a block, you then say, oh, okay, show me the way. And the other one will be shown to you. But when we don't have enough confidence in ourselves to listen, we can get cut off. And that's what I've seen happen a lot with animal people. And just because somebody doesn't listen to you or they tell you you're crazy or whatever, so what?
I
You're
always say,
doing
what
well.
other people think about me is none of my business.
None of your business. Somebody said that really, really great. The other thing is we take ourselves so seriously. And some of the
Yeah.
humor and the lightheartedness from animals can really help us there. Who was it that said, oh gosh, I'm thinking Victor Hugo, but it wasn't. It was a quote, one of my favorites. Life is too serious. Life is too serious not to laugh. Okay. So,
Absolutely.
right. It's too serious not to laugh at it. So we get so much more done when we're lighthearted and we're listening and awakening to what the universe, and call it whatever you want, is providing to us. And that's what animals do. It's what animals teach us about death and dying, you know?
Mm.
They're more comfortable with that. I have a whole chapter on this in my book. Um, they trust in the higher power, the universal connection, the cosmic, whatever it is, the intelligence, that if this is good, then whatever comes next must also be good. So I can trust. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And, trust is so important, just in general, that we're not alone. I mean, that's, I think, one of the biggest lessons I've learned with animals is we're never alone. There's there's always somebody around, being with us. What what would say to somebody in this time, maybe that does have an animal, is feeling really isolated, doesn't know what their inspiration is? What would you invite them to go do?
Do you mean as far as perhaps working with an animal? Because actually,
Working with the animal. Yeah.
yeah, and that's again where I say have a trust in yourself. Trust in yourself because I I really believe that our monkey minds get in the way. I mean, when you ask yourself, when you go into yourself and you're meditating or you're just quietly thinking and you don't shut off the voice, but you calm it and you say, what is it I really, really love? What is it that I love and I want to do? I believe that the answers are usually there. It's a soft, quiet voice that's in the heart. The
Mm,
gods come slowly and quietly in through the back door. They don't charge with flags and trumpets in the front door. It's only when we sit quietly and we listen to what our heart is saying do we come up with, ooh, that inkling or that this or that. But we tamp it down because it's often so tender that we're afraid. Is
absolutely.
this making sense? Because usually we know the answers, but maybe we're not ready to listen.
And we
We're
distract.
not ready.
We just
The other thing that I find very powerful, and it works in the situation of the question you're asking me, and also when you want to communicate with an animal that perhaps has passed. And we try so hard, because we love and we care and we're grieving and it actually shuts us down. So what I often say to people is put an intention before you go to bed at night, and whether it's to get some aha thing in the morning or to connect with an animal. In this case it works with animals. Go to bed and just say, I'm trying to, I miss you so, my little pepper. If there's any way you could communicate with me. Have that intention when you go to bed. And one of two things can happen. Something will happen in a dream. Animals often come to us in dreams. Or first thing in the morning, before we're fully awake and we're out of our sleep, and there's that state, that sort of state. And often answers will flood in then.
wow.
Um, Listen, pay attention to that. That actually happens to me too in the shower, believe it or not. Water is an incredible conduit.
The
Uh,
rhythm of the, yes.
and I will make intentions, whatever, and then let it go. And I'm telling you, in the morning in the shower, I will suddenly get, oop, where did that come from? So, what we need to remember is we are here to receive, allow things to be received. Slow
Mm,
down, slow down, and allow. And I think that's partly what we've been, offered in this time of COVID.
I agree. For somebody perhaps that's not used to receiving, in fact, I know. I call it the
Our
gift of
culture,
giving.
our culture.
Yeah. I affectionately call it the gift of giving when we
Yeah,
allow our others to give to us. Um, is there any tool that you work with? Because you also take people out in nature and you ask them to
yes,
begin to open, and they work with the trees and listen and try to hear,
totally.
the greater. Um,
Actually, that's the gift. That's one of the great gifts because I used to, um, nature and animals have been my. I mean, I can look out the window, and I did this the other day. I was all whipped up about something, and I was in a hurry, and I had to get this done, and I kind of went, overwhelmed. And I looked out the window, and there was a little dove out there, and the dove just immediately, because I've been doing this for so many more years than I want to think about. That bird could pull me right in, could calm me, could soothe me, could heal me, could show me the way. But we can all do that. Um, and I learned that that wasn't only for me, that was for everybody. So I said, okay, next time I do a workshop, and I was doing a lot of them before COVID, and I would take people out into nature. And of course, we do talks, and I teach and do stuff. But the minute we went out and we walked, and I taught them how to, okay, let's try to look at a tree differently. Let's like pick a tree, pick whatever. I'll use a tree as an example. And let's just focus on that tree. And the great Krishnamurti, the great teacher, once said, when you look at something as a label, you've already lost it. So just open your mind to see this being, a tree, and just
Mhm.
try to see it as a child or as a question. What are you, tree? And see what happens. See if the tree responds. People go crazy. They just, it's so amazing how that connection, that communication, for whatever word you want to say, happens with a tree or a bird, and whole new ways of being open within us. Are we vibrate differently when we go out? It's experience. So what I'm saying is, it's not reading another book,
No.
although all should read my book. My publisher would be pissed. So,
Yeah, yes, no,
but
please.
put down your books and just go out and be with a tree.
And I think the books we should just underline that, will help you go and do
Of
that.
course.
Because, you mentioned, the Krishna, um, and you studied shamanism with some of,
Oh,
different indigenous people around the world.
yes, yes.
Um, can you just gleam on some of what you've
Sure.
learned? I mean,
Sure. Well, what it is, it's almost, and I hope you can understand, but when we want to go deeper, when we want to vibrate at a higher level, we want to open to higher consciousness, because think of it as a dream state. Okay. When you're in a dream, you think it's real until you wake up, right? So what I try to teach people is that we can wake up out of this dream into a higher consciousness where there is far more revealed to us, and we become consciously aware of that interconnectedness of all life. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I'm
mm,
saying, that's what a tree can help you do. It's like unlocking, putting a key and unlocking, it's opening you to the awareness that there's more, whole lot more going on there than you might have been aware of. But it's the experience of it. If somebody says to you, this is what it feels like to be in love, and it's this and it's that, that's going to be great. But is that going to, when do you learn what love is? Only when you experience it. And
absolutely.
I remember, so I always thought that my relationship with animals was between me and the animals. And then I was in South Africa on this trip, and make a very interesting yet long story quick. I was in Kruger Park winding up a trip and working with animals. And these buffalo, a herd of buffalo came by and stopped. dead in their tracks, right in the middle of the road. And all these eyes were looking at me. And it was one of the most powerful, inspiring stories that I've had in my life, when these
Wow.
buffalo looked at me. And basically, what they let me know was, "We've taught you well, but now do not forget us. You must teach what you know to the humans." And that's when I started to write my book and do whatever. But though I was so closely tied to animals, I went back to South Africa to get even more deeply involved in this connection between us, and how could I serve better and deeper. And I spent a week in the desert with the San people. There was some other people with us, but we were a small group, and we basically lived in the sort of a tent. It wasn't really, but I learned through these people. Okay, Linda, you wanna learn more? Okay, get down on the ground and put your ear to the dirt and listen to the ants below the ground. I mean, it was so much depth to that awakening of how much more. There's always more to learn and to grow. But the point is, when you raise that vibration and you raise that consciousness, so much more comes to you in your life's purpose. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, wrapping it in the final thoughts and really connecting it with our audience and allowing them to figure out how they can do this. So far you've talked about get out in there and be with just a tree or a bird, um, and see it differently. Look at it as a being, not as a labeled oak tree or
Forget the
something.
labels.
Yeah,
Become
forget
a
the
young
labels.
child. Become childlike.
Open, childlike, and see them like children, and open, open to what you can hear. Is there anything else you want to, we're in the last 3 minutes here, any other thoughts you want to share with everybody to how to find that consciousness which will lead you to inspiration, I believe, naturally.
Yes, and I think meditation, to go into the quiet and try your best to shut down the monkey mind and put your intentions in your meditation. But the most important thing, and it's whether you're doing intuitive connections with animals or with people, it's allowing your vulnerability to become your strength. So if knowing that if you're an empath, don't be afraid of being an empath. Don't be afraid of what could go wrong. Allow those feelings to be there, but then say to yourself, I am a courageous spirit. I am in the world, but not of it, as we say. And I am courageously here to do what I can do, and sit with the trees and listen and shut up and shut up and listen.
2 ears, one mouth.
And I just want to say one final thing, and it's the most important thing animals really want us to know. And it's that we think we have all these problems, and we do, right? And we've created most of them. But the most important thing we need to forget, it's kind of a forgetting that we're separate from the rest of the world. And that love will connect us, and love will show you the way.
Absolutely beautiful. And have the courage to accept it, even though it might be scary.
And
Beautiful.
even if it's not always an easy road, but what you muddle through, the only way out is through. Don't be afraid to be afraid. Don't be afraid to be afraid.
I like to say it's just a bump on the road to your success.
That's
It's just
right.
a little bump. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And over the
Beautiful.
years, I've been so strengthened by things I thought were going to kill me. Telling you,
Ah,
have the courage.
absolutely. Oh, I that's a whole nother show in that. Well, Linda, and hopefully we'll have you back. I just want to
Oh,
say
I'd
thank
love
you
to.
so much.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
Just you are truly inspiring, and what you bring, and the buffaloes would be proud of you, I think, right now, and that what
I
you're
hope.
bringing to
I
people.
don't know.
I know they are. They have to be.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching Inspiration Whispers, where in a world where inspiration and purpose is so needed, we find it so you can live a better life. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.